Hi friends, welcome back. Today, being that it is November, I have been wanting to do a fall scene painting. I haven't done one in a while, probably since last year. I think I tend to do one every fall, and that's the only time I ever do them. So it's time to do something very fall themed, and I had some inspiration to try some stuff I hadn't really done before. So I'm going to show you how I did this painting right here, and I think you're going to love it. So sit back, relax, and check out my voiceover while I show you what I did. Like I said, it usually happens about once a year that I realize I haven't painted a fall scene yet, and then I just need to paint one. And the kind of funny thing to me is that fall is my favorite season, but it is absolutely the season that I never paint. And I really don't know why. I love all of the fall colors. I love the textures that you get in fall. I love the leaves, and it's cool, but it's not too cool, and you can get this gorgeous breeze, and you get fluffier animals because they've gotten their wintry coats in. And I've really always loved fall. I'm not one of those girls who is super obsessed with fall and does all the fall things and is surrounded by pumpkins as soon as it hits October. Pumpkin spice is fine, I guess. I do like pumpkin bread, but I don't make it that often. Anyway, I love fall, but not in that stereotypical, I love fall and I'm going to make it my whole personality as soon as we hit September, October. I'm not that kind of I love fall kind of person, but I do love fall. And with doing this painting, I really realized that I should paint fall scenes more often, because this was really fun. What I'm doing right now is my usual sky technique, but I'm using a lot more white and then just a little bit of ivory black and a little bit of turquoise blue to try to make it look like it's a cloudy sky. It's kind of a stormy sky, but it's not overly stormy, and it's not raining. It's just that gorgeous fall gray that I love. And it had never really occurred to me to try to paint this before. And then I found a reference photo that was honestly the impetus for doing this whole painting in the first place. I think that I talked in the last Badger video that I did about how I had a goal this year to do 8 full-size paintings. And with finishing the Badger and the Sea Dragon, I've actually done 8 full-size paintings. And so there was a part of me that just thought, well, you've met your goal, so you're done. You don't have to do another big painting this year. You can just move along. You can start on your Christmas stuff. You can start on I have 2 holiday-themed videos that I'll be filming next. But then there's always November, and I don't necessarily like to do Christmas-themed videos in November, even though I've already decorated my house for Christmas and I've been listening to Christmas music for over a week. I still like for November to be more Thanksgiving, more fall, more fall, less winter, less Christmas. So I did want to make sure that I got at least one fall-ish video out. And I had started another painting when I did that last badger, and I still haven't finished it. And I think my initial idea was to do something with that one. But then again, I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across this photographer who I want to say is in Finland. I don't remember off the top of my head. I would have to go look. But he had a bunch of absolutely gorgeous photography. And there was one in particular that was super inspiring. He was clearly looking through the branches of a tree through and onto what I think it was like a barn or a windmill or something like that. And it was foggy. The sky was this gorgeous gray blue color. And the leaves on the tree that you're looking through were fall leaves. So they're like bright yellows and pale greens and super, super beautiful. And I saw that photo and I immediately thought, I could paint something in this style. So I took that concept and I turned it into this painting. So that was really the impetus for my doing the sky in these colors. That's not really a sky color scheme that had ever really occurred to me to try. I don't know why either, because I love doing clouds. I love doing the cloudy sky, but it just hadn't occurred to me yet that I could do something bright cloudy instead of dark cloudy, because normally when I'm doing a big cloudy scene like this, it would be nighttime. So I would have some stars sprinkled in. But with this one, it's clearly like the middle of the day or early morning. So we've got to have the brighter sky, the lighter colors, which means that I can keep a lot of the colors in the painting a little bit brighter. So while it is the fall color schemes and you're getting some of those more muted tones, the colors themselves are really bright and really vibrant and really show through like the classic fall colors that you think of when somebody mentions like, oh, it's the start of autumn, the leaves are starting to change. There's those yellows and that little bit of orange, and there's that one specific green that you think of for the beginning of fall. So that was what I was really trying to capture here, was this is fall. Why I decided to paint this whole bottom half of the canvas with a tiny, I believe it's a number 6 round brush, instead of grabbing my 3/4 inch angle brush that was right there that I usually use for painting larger sections like this. I have no idea. But for some reason, I decided that I was going to use this tiny little brush to paint this whole bottom half of the canvas. And legitimately, I think it turned out beautiful, but I think I would have gotten the exact same thing if I had grabbed the bigger brush. So 0 reason why I'm using this teeny tiny brush. I don't recommend using the teeny tiny brush if you can help it. I also don't recommend using the teeny tiny brush and not wearing your compression glove if you have cubital tunnel. That was an issue for me a little bit the next day. Really wish I had just grabbed the bigger brush and or worn my compression glove. But that's neither here nor there. So in this part, I am basically just going back and forth between Hooker's green and yellow ochre. And I'm just mixing the two together and kind of just going back and forth with them to make these two grassy hills. I think they came out really nice, especially considering I'm using the wrong brush. And then here is where we really start to get into those fall colors. So I have every single orange that I own. I have quinacridone magenta. I have 3 different yellows. I've got a couple of reds. And I've got a filbert brush. And I am just dipping my brush into multiple paint colors. And then I'm tapping those on the canvas to create these hyper textured bushes, essentially. Because again, I want this to be full of fall colors and you look at that and you just think, oh yeah, it's fall. And I went on a trip recently, last month, to Pagosa Springs in Colorado, and there were these bushes that looked just like this. And I remember thinking in the car on the way there that these were the most stereotypically fall bushes I had ever seen in my life. And I didn't get a picture of them or anything, but I knew that that was a thing that I could paint because it just looked from a distance like blotches of fall colors. And I can paint that. So, like I said, just going back and forth between different colors and then just tapping the paint onto the canvas and trying to create as organic a shape as possible, and then making sure to vary the colors. So if I start with something pinker on the top, then I want to add more yellows as I get closer to the bottom, and just kind of going back and forth between colors like that to make it very natural. Because when you look at trees or bushes or any kind of plant that is going to change colors in the fall, you'll notice that part of it is going to change colors first, and there's always going to be a bit that kind of tries to hang on to that green, to that life, and it'll take a few weeks for the whole plant to turn into that bright red or that bright orange or that vibrant yellow. And in the middle of that, you have these plants that are just this gorgeous mix of all of those colors. So I do even have a little bit of green on my palette that I am tapping into the bottoms of a couple of these bushes, because it is generally, at least with bushes from what I've noticed in my observances of the plant life in the area, it tends to be the bottom part of the bush, the part that's like closest to the ground, that stays green the longest. I really don't know why. I haven't bothered looking into why, but that's just what I noticed. I don't know if it was the case with the bushes that I saw on the way to Pagosa. I didn't pay that close attention to them, but it's kind of what I was going for. I was going for that just bright, vibrant fall color bush with that little bit of green at the bottom, with the plant really hanging on to the life that it had over the summer. And I think that's what makes fall so interesting and so special in terms of colors, because like in the spring, you get a ton of flowers. You get that really pale green of new growth, and then you get a lot of flowers. So you get a lot of color in terms of the flowers. But when you get to fall, you get a mix of color that you just don't see in the spring. You don't see those vibrant oranges and the yellows, and you don't get that same, like there's a flush of new growth that you see in the spring, but in the fall you see this kind of hanging on to life kind of thing. And there's just something really beautiful and really special about seeing the plants hanging on to the last vestiges of summer like that. That is just super pretty, and I don't know, it's just a color scheme that I absolutely love, and I really ought to paint it more often. I am really, really, really excited that I decided to do this one. I think I spent about a week on this painting. I was probably working on it. I probably spent 3, maybe 4 evenings actually working on this piece, and the rest of the time I was just living life, you know how it is. But it was one of those paintings that came together really smoothly. I think mainly because I did have some reference photos of like, this is the vibe you're going for. And I had a lot of ideas when it came to this one, and I had a really vivid concept in my head, and that always makes a painting come together smoother and faster, and in a lot of ways just more fun. So it was a blast getting to work on this one, and even spending as little time with it as I did, like in the grand scheme of things, because it does feel like they go by really fast when I paint them in the span of a week or less. But I really do spend like 8 to 10 hours working on something like this, and that's no small feat. But because it goes by so smoothly and it is flowing so easily from my brush, it can feel like I didn't put that much effort into it, so maybe it's not as good as I think it is. But this is definitely one of those paintings that, even though I did it so quickly and it came so smoothly, it's not one of those paintings where I have that feeling of maybe it's not as good as I think it is. I legitimately, from start to finish, every time I stepped back to look at this one, this was exactly what I wanted it to be, and this was exactly what I was going for. And I love when that happens. I love when I have a really vivid idea, a really clear concept in my head, and I am able to execute it exactly like I was wanting to execute it. There is just something really, really special about doing that, and it's always the ones that you get done really fast and that just flow that you have that feeling with. It is rare that the ones that I take my time on end up looking anything like my original concept. The more time I take on it, the more I will diverge from the original concept, and it'll turn into something totally different. And of course, I love those too. Y'all know it if you've watched any of my videos. We get to the end, and I absolutely love all of them. I haven't really ever shown you guys a painting that I didn't like, because if I didn't like it, I would not call it done, and I wouldn't show it to you. So there's no reason for you guys to have seen a painting that I didn't like. You have seen very clearly a lot of paintings that were in the stage that I didn't like, but I'm not going to show it to you as the finished work if I don't like it. That's just silly. And so again, since this is fall, we should have a little bit of actual greenery. So I'm taking that Hooker's green again and a smaller filbert brush, and I'm just going to add a couple of little green bushes just to make sure that it's not an overwhelming amount of fall colors, because again, this is fall, so you should have that little bit of push and pull between the fall colors and the summer colors, because that's the way it is. And my big concept for this one is going to be around the edges of the canvas, which actually means that for once I need to paint the character or the figure before I get into the big finishing touches that are going to turn this painting into the thing that I've been envisioning this whole time. And because we're on a badger kick, we're doing another badger. And he's just going to be sitting in this field of fall bushes because he's black and white, and that means he's going to pop in this field of color. I did think about putting a fox in here, and the more that I thought about it, the more I thought that either of the foxes, the blue fox or the red fox, were just going to clash a little bit with the fall colors. And if I was to do just a normal colors red fox, it would disappear into this because the color that I use for the red fox is one of the colors that I used for some of the leaves in the bushes. So while doing a fox would have been fun, I think it also would have just disappeared a little bit, and that wouldn't have matched the concept that I have in my head. Because again, the reference photo that I'm working off of, or really just the photo that gave me the idea in the first place, is a camera looking through leaves of a tree onto a hill that has I believe it's like a windmill or a farm or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. So you're looking through a tree at a specific scene that is centered in the leaves and the branches that are surrounding the frame. That means there needs to be a focal character in the center. And if I had tried to do a fox, the fox would have disappeared into the color of the painting. And I really feel like that would have negated what I was going for with the theme and the colors and the stylization that I wanted in this piece. So it needed to be an animal that was going to stand out on these fall colors. And, I thought about doing some other animal. I didn't have a super clear idea of what kind of animal I wanted to do. But then I looked up badger photos in fall leaves and was actually able to find 6 or 7 just absolutely adorable badger reference photos where the badger is literally sitting in a slew of fall leaves. And a couple of them look like they're AI, but my thing with AI too is that I don't mind the use of AI if you're using it to make something like reference photos, just to get like a conceptual idea to make it a little bit easier for you to paint something. So using AI to be like, so I need to know what these colors would look like in this setting, or what this animal would look like in this setting. Even if AI doesn't get the shape of the animal right, it'll still be able to tell you, or show you rather, what that thing looks like in that setting. And I think that that's probably the most ethical use of AI in art. I think it works pretty well to be able to use it for reference photos. And I'm never actually using AI. I'm just looking up reference photos, and because the internet is just filled with AI photos now, it's just one of those where, if you know AI, you can look at it and go, oh, that's AI. So a couple of the badger photos were, I'm pretty sure, AI, but because I do occasionally use AI for making reference photos, that didn't really bother me to just save those really quick as just some inspiration photos. And here, of course, as I've been doing for the last, minute or two, we are getting down to the nitties and the gritties, and here is where the painting will become the thing that I have had in mind from the beginning. Because again, the reference photo has the camera looking through the branches of a tree. and the tree is turning colors with the first flush of fall. And I wanted to go a little bit farther than that. I didn't necessarily want it to be that first flush of fall concept like the actual photo that I was looking at. I also didn't in any way want to copy this photographer's photo. I don't find that ethical. I know that this particular photographer has been asked before if artists can use his photos for reference photos, and he's generally seemed totally fine with it. But I also that feels too much like copying, to just take a photographer's photo and make a copy of it in Paint, where I think it is completely ethical and it's completely fine and it's completely normal in any case to be inspired by another artist's work and be able to take concepts from that artist's work and turn them into a whole new painting of your own. So that's what I was trying to do here, is to just take the concept that I had seen from this photograph and make my own thing using a similar style. What's the word I'm looking for? The scope is very similar, but the colors are totally different. The placements of the leaves are totally different. It's not even the same kind of tree branch as the ones in the photo that I was looking at. And it's just being able to take the concept from a photo and use it in a painting, and use it in a way that you're making your own new, unique thing, but you're still taking inspiration from the people around you and the artists around you. And I think that it's a very special way of creating, because you pay homage to other artists by saying, like, I love this work that you did. Let me make something similar. Let me make my own version. Let me make the thing that my heart thought of when I saw your art. My heart thought of this art, and now I'm going to make this kind of as an homage to the art that you made. I think that's really special, and I would love if that ever happened from somebody looking at my work. If they got an idea for their own work of art, I would love to see what they came up with. I think that's just super cool. I love getting inspiration from other artists, and I would be so thrilled if I inspired any one of you to create art or to make something of your own. I think art is very much a thing that we all need more of. I think the arts are a lot of times considered lesser than, and I think that that's wrong. I think art is the way that we make sense of the world, and art is a form of beauty that each person has their own version of, which I think is interesting, because then you have the people who say that they're not artistic or they don't have an artistic bone in their body. And my rebuttal to that is always that, well, art is a muscle, not a bone, so you shouldn't have an artistic bone, but you do have an artistic muscle, and you just you've got to use it in order to strengthen it. So if you want to be an artist, you have to make art, or else that muscle will never get used and it will atrophy and it won't know how to make art. But every person has their own version, their own idea, their own things that are beautiful specifically to them. And that means that everyone has their own art that only they can make. And I do think it's sad that a lot of people don't make their own art, and I do think that it is sad that there are people who, instead of putting in the time and the effort and learning the techniques and honing the skills and all of that, all of the stuff that comes with it, that they just put prompts into a computer and the computer makes quote unquote art for them. I don't think that that's art. I think that that is, in a lot of ways, a mockery of what artists actually do. I think artists take a lot of time and take a lot of energy and effort, and it's really blood, sweat, and tears that goes into a lot of what we create. And it's just kind of a slap in the face for AI to now be taking this thing that is so intrinsically human and making it cheap and a thing that can be done by a computer on a whim with just the right phrases and the right words to make it happen. I think that art is much more special than that, and that art should be given a lot more respect than that. And artists should also be given a lot more respect than that, because artists work our butts off to hone our craft and to get better at what we're doing and to learn new skills and new techniques and to always be creating stuff so that we never lose that muscle memory of this is how you paint a leaf, or this is how you paint a badger or a fox or a flower or anything. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy and heart and love and humanity into making art, and that should be respected. That's something I feel very strongly about, which is why I am very particular when I say that I do occasionally use AI for my art, because I am very particular about the way that I will use it. I never use it for a direct reference photo. I only really use it for color placement, for working on shadow placement, because that is a thing that I can be a little bit iffy on sometimes. I use it for things that I use it for when I'm trying to find a specific reference photo that I can't find a human that's taken the exact photo I'm looking for. And that is in no way humanity's fault. I have an idea in my head of an image, and a computer can make that image really quickly, and then I can use that as right, that's how a badger would hold their paw in this instance. And again, AI is still not super good at that, but having the ability to use a computer as a tool to create references for stuff like that, I think that that is one of the few ethical ways that you can use AI as an artist, because it's really just another artist's tool, because we all use reference photos, we all use reference books, we all have color theory stuff that we look at, we all have like color sheets and swatch sheets and stuff like that that we use to help us be better at our craft. And I think that AI could very much be used for stuff like that. And I'm going to be really honest, I don't know how I got on this AI track, but here we are. And I'm nearly done with this painting at this point. I have painted a whole bunch of leaves. This is actually the part that took me the longest to do, because my hand was physically incapable of painting so many leaves in a short amount of time. I could only do so much before I was starting to just feel like hand and finger cramps, and I didn't want to hurt my arm by making myself keep painting leaves when I could just take a break and come back to it the next day. I actually too would have finished this painting a little bit sooner, except then I was in a bit of a car accident, had a hit and run incident, wahoo, and took a little bit of extra time off from this painting just to sit and watch a movie and enjoy a different form of art, because my hands were too shaky after the accident to be able to actually paint anything. I did actually have some trouble the last session that I was painting this because my hand was still a little bit shaky. I was doing the veining in the leaves, which you'll see me doing a little bit here, I think briefly, because you can't super see the veining in the video, so I filmed the whole thing, but I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it doesn't make sense to keep it in here when you can't really see what I'm doing. But I was doing the veining in the leaves and my hand just kept shaking, and I have a couple of leaves that have very wobbly veins, and I figured, that's fine. Some leaves just look wonky. That's all right. We can have some wonky little leaves. It happens. This painting really, like I said, it came together just beautifully. I love the little badger in the middle of the canvas. I think he's just about the cutest little thing. He came out so pretty, and I don't know if I'm getting better at badgers or what, but he came together in just a few minutes, and it was one of those where I painted him and then I stepped back and I looked at it and I went, yeah, I'm an artist. I know what I'm doing. I got this. And honestly, the more I have painted this year, the more I've had that feeling of I'm an artist, I can do this. And it is really cool to start to feel more like an artist, because I think everyone has a little bit of that imposter syndrome of, am I actually good at this thing? I don't know. I only have X number of subscribers on YouTube. I don't even have a website yet. I don't have any of this. I don't have any of that. I haven't even done an art show yet. But to be able to look at the growth of my art over time, and even just the growth of my art over the course of this year, I feel like, and I know that I have really developed a lot of skills this year, and I got to take the time to take my time working on 9 full-size paintings and making some of the best works of art that I've ever done. It has been an absolute joy this year to work on all of this stuff, to get to push myself creatively and to discover just these new parts of my love of the craft and my love of this art that I've done for honestly a relatively short amount of time, all things considered. Because if you remember, up until 2020, I was more of a writer than an artist. So it is really cool to see how everything can expand in only 5 years. It has been great fun. And so here I'm adding just a few additional branches with orange leaves just to make it a little bit different, because I realized that all of my branches had the same yellow, and I just wanted a little bit of a different color without going overboard on it being a different color. I think the orange was a good choice It's again one of the colors I used in the bushes, so it's not a color that wasn't present on the canvas before. And I think it just came out so pretty. It was, again, just, it was a lot of fun. I super enjoyed this one. And I've really enjoyed making this video. I hope that you guys did too. I hope that you've enjoyed my ranting about the use of AI and the misuse of AI. And I hope that you will stick around for the rest of the year, honestly, because I've got a couple of holiday videos coming up and something fun for the start of the new year. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in a couple weeks with a brand new one. Bye! Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chill videos with art.